A lot of Colombo seem to be almost like a European city. Wide open spaces and just the general vibe of the place. Very unsubcontinental.
Yeah, especially what struck me was the rare combination of laid-backness and progress. In fact, some of the achievers in Colombo are also pretty laid back. This is actually my first official drive with a test cricketer.
This is Jahan Mubarak.
This is my first drive with Cricket for video correspondence. Being an island, maybe the island mentality, a very laid-back way of life. Sri Lanka, the fans are, although passionate, are slightly more moderate in expressing their pleasure or displeasure at the team's performance. I think in that sense, they're slightly a bit better off. In Sri Lanka, it's something that we can forget over time, over about a month or so. People can put it in the back of their minds and say, okay, let's forget about it and get on with it. What is it?
An Indian fan, if he sees a cricketer, comes and hugs him. Pakistani fan would just walk up to him, shake his hand and go his way. But a Sri Lankan fan will recognize you but will not come into your space. The other side of it is there too. If the Indians do well or the Pakistanis do well, their rewards are much greater, and it's much bigger in India.
The expectations are high, there is no doubt, and the team has to perform. Whilst we are passionate about the game, it's not a life-ended thing as sometimes it is in other countries.
We have an archive of seeing our team not do well in tournaments and start as minnows and start as the underdog and then sort of gradually move into a team that now is usually capable of beating any team on a good day. And so because of that, we don't have a legacy of success that makes us think that we are obligated to win.
Even their World Cup hoardings seem to be moderate in their nationalism.
We've come through 30 years of civil war, and that has an impact on the national psyche. And you don't have that same sense of entitlement. Even though a defeat will disappoint us, we'll go and we'll have a party after that and forget about it and move on to the next thing. We won't hold Kumar Sangakkara or Mahela Jayawardene responsible for our happiness.
But how does this temperamental tolerance actually translate into action?
I would suggest that the Sri Lankan people have been innovators. If you travel to Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Sigiriya with our ancient kingdoms, you'll find that they were far ahead of what you would imagine that time to be. And with nothing but elephants, they were able, legend has it, to maintain slopes between their aqueduct systems, which were 1 inch to a mile. So over 1 mile, it slopes 1 inch, so the water flows in one direction. And this was 2,500 years ago.
You know, we've had a war for 30 years. But during this terrible state that we were in, business continued. And that was all a lot to do with the innovation. We managed to convey to the outside world that things are normal here in certain areas.
They're not afraid to try things. We see little innovations even in the paddy fields and toddy tapping and things like that. Seriously, yes. People put out quite innovative in this.
From Malinga who bowls one way to Murali who bowls another way. We got Mendes who does something else.
Dill scoop, I think that's the spirit of innovation as well. Because they have that freedom to express themselves, I think they can be the best that they can be.
There are surprises at every corner in Sri Lanka. Sample this.
Domestically, rugby is a much bigger sport than cricket is. Inherently, rugby is a far more exciting game. It takes less time. You get 3 man and his dog at a provincial cricket game or any domestic game, except of course the big schools games. And every club match, every school match that you have here in Colombo or even in Kandy, which is another huge hotbed of rugby, you will see at least 5 to 10,000 people at every game. Sri Lanka cricket is the one thing that everybody follows here. They don't really have allegiance to a club. They don't really have too much allegiance to a geographical location. Cricket used to be what I would probably say was a sort of exclusive game. It has now reached much broader spectrums.
International cricket might have become bigger than international rugby in Sri Lanka, but they face a country in the World Cup semi-final where international rugby is much, much bigger
than cricket. This Sri Lankan team is a very odd one. It has the lowest impact batting side and the highest impact bowling side in the tournament. Truly bizarre. New Zealand actually matches Sri Lanka on impact and could well match them in the semi-final. If they get through their top order, I would worry for Sri Lanka.
And Sri Lankan fans can only hope that they don't have to muster up all their reasonable tolerance at the end of this semi-final.